Hello, welcome to HITC Sport, and yes, Game of Thrones is back. I'm guessing many of you have spent your night tossing yourselves under a f***ing blanket now that it's back on the air. Well, have you ever wondered what Game of Thrones character best represents your Premier League club? Probably not, because it sounds like a terrible f***ing idea. I don't even like the show that much, I can barely remember it. But sure, let's have a crack anyway and just see how we get on. Oh, and by the way lads, I'm trying to hit 300k as soon as possible. I think we can do it. If you could hit that button, it'd be very much appreciated. Anyway, let's get into it. Arsenal, JAIME Lannister. I mean, for Christ's sake, half of Arsenal's fan base looks like they're being pulled straight out of Westeros. But no, at one point, Arsenal were a genuine threat to be feared at the top of the table. Okay, this was back when Busted were still in the charts and Matt LeBlanc still had a career, but still, since building the new stadium, they've essentially crippled themselves for the last 10 years. I mean, how else do you explain Shamak and Yaya Sonogo? But yeah, I'll go with that JAIME fella who bangs his sister. Actually, maybe on second thoughts, Blackpool would have been a better fit. But yes, this JAIME fella had his hand chopped off, got a haircut, and just seemed to lose all of his arrogance and mojo. As far as medieval knights with god complexes go, that's essentially mirroring the type of fall from grace that Arsenal have had. But please lads, for the love of God, please do not read too much into this and start eyeing your sister up from across the room. You never know with some people. Bournemouth, OLENNA Tyrell. Nobody really expected much from OLENNA Tyrell. She looked like your bog standard frustrated old bag who's most likely going to have a stroke due to the stress of it. Like Bournemouth when they were first promoted, I didn't give them a sniff of survival. While she looked like she was someone sitting in a nursing home waiting for a call from her son, they were relying on Dan Gosling and Steve Cook. Well, they proved me wrong. Not only have they survived, they've also taken out some big names. Beating Chelsea 4-0 was a highlight and a shock, sort of mirroring sweet old Olenna's murder of the king of Westeros, Brighton JORAH Mormont. Which one was he again? Yes, he's the lad who's well 50 and has spent the last 6 seasons sniffing around the young ones. Considering the man probably has a tug in the river on a nightly basis over a girl young enough to be his daughter, Sunderland? But no, I'll go for Brighton, I guess. A good, unassuming club who are just happy to make up the numbers and just hang on in there for the love of God. You know, until Chris Hughton gets the boot or George R.R. Martin has another thirst for blood. To be honest, the only thirst he's got is for 3 pints of sugar. Burnley KHAL, a big beast of a football club. Hailing from pretty nomadic lands. Lads, I've been to Burnley. There isn't much there apart from a stale fish and chips. Like KHAL, Burnley have overachieved at times. Whether it be finishing 7th or getting married to the future Khaleesi. I'm sorry, I mean there's slumming and there's that. Surely the mother of dragons can do better than tossing off Aquaman. Cardiff City, Daenerys Targaryen. Of course I'm choosing Cardiff because just like the Targaryens, the Welsh bred with their sisters for centuries. Just a joke for sake. I'm 3 minutes in and I've already offended half the population of Wales. But no lads, I'm joking, that is not why I've chosen it. Cardiff City, dragons, I mean it just writes itself. Okay, I got nothing else. But also, like Daenerys, Cardiff have also enlisted the help of a dwarf and a fellow who can't go 20 minutes without complaining. Oh, and against all odds, they might actually have a fairy tale end to the season. Or more likely, they get relegated. Daenerys will get killed off in episode 2, forcing the Welsh to go back to the championship and Emilia Clarke to pump out those goddamn Terminator sequels. Chelsea, TYWIN Lannister. I did consider Joffrey, but I mean, no, don't worry Chelsea, I wouldn't dare to compare you to a little spoiled brat who wouldn't have lasted 20 minutes in my house without getting a f***ing spoon to the head. But I'll go with TYWIN because I think most Chelsea fans sort of realise after the last 15 years in the Premier League, they have been despised, whether it be through jealousy or whatever. But just like TYWIN, I don't think they care. Because after all, a lion does not concern himself with the opinions of the sheep. And with that, I've got half my Welsh audience back on side. Like TYWIN, Chelsea have been cold and ruthless when needed. Whether it be in the transfer market or getting rid of their managers. But also, they basically shot themselves in the foot in the most embarrassing and stupid way possible. Getting a transfer ban for the sake of Bertrand Traore, that is almost as mortifying as getting shot with a crossbow while you're trying to take a shit. Crystal Palace, Brienne of Tarth. Crystal Palace are the underdog. Back in 2013, I wrote them off. Just like Brienne, I thought, right, they'll be doing well to last a season. But no, they've proved their worth. Write them off at your peril. One of them is Wilfred Zaha on the wing, and Andros Townsend, who is capable of taking the net off. The other is capable of chopping you into waffles and serving you to her horse. Everton Stannis Baratheon, a club with real aspirations of achieving big things. I have a feeling the powers that be at Everton Football Club are also a little naive. I mean, there was that summer they signed about 6 number 10s. Then there was chucking cash at an aging Wayne Rooney. And now £30 million for Yannick Bolasie. I mean, it's not quite like burning your daughter at the stake, but it's still pretty delusional. Just like turning your kid into firewood, chucking 50 million at Swansea's best player won't automatically put you into the top 4. Fulham, the fat one that Ramsey Bolton fed to the dogs. I mean, let's be honest here, Fulham were not prepared for this division. Just like this one and their gym membership, Fulham chucked £100 million down the drain. They were not equipped to survive in the Premier League. I mean, neither was Who's this one? Roose Bolton's missus or something. I can't remember, lads, honest to Christ. I don't even like the show that much. But yeah, you just knew when you saw her in the same room as Ramsay and Bolton. Just like when Fulham started the season with Cyrus Christie in defence. They were not long for this world. Huddersfield Town, Hodor. Sorry. Listen lads, Huddersfield did well for a while. They were hanging on in there by the skin of their fingertips. And then they bit off a bit more than they could chew and sank like a goddamn stone. For Huddersfield, that something was being asked to survive with Jason punching in midfield. For Hodor, it was being asked to hold a f***ing door. Clearly, multitasking was not that man's strong point. Leicester City, Bran Stark. Not too long ago, Leicester suffered a traumatizing relegation to League One. Although like Bran getting tossed out a window, it only looks to have made them stronger. What am I saying? There is no looks like. They went and won the goddamn Premier League. Of course it made them stronger. While Bran, well, I don't know, he's become the ancient four-eyed raven or some shite. Or some other load of bollocks that George R.R. Martin can't be bothered to explain. To be honest, that man is probably more likely of getting type 2 diabetes than he is to ever finish the books. I don't even know why I'm complaining. I've never read the books. I can barely remember the show. Why am I doing this video? Liverpool, Sansa, Stark. Like Sansa, the Liverpool fans have probably spent the last few years curled up in a traumatized little ball. Whereas Sansa probably spent every night reliving the traumatizing death of her father. For Liverpool fans, it was probably Gerrard slipping on the goddamn turf. Never mind seeing your dad's head get sliced off. Nothing hurts a Liverpool fan more than this moment. Hell, maybe this. Good old Michael Littlefinger himself. The man with 1,000 loyalties and none that mean anything other than fucking lip service. Anyway, like Sansa, we don't quite know if Liverpool have what it takes to really go all the way. But yeah, they're certainly on the up. Man City, Melisandre. Man City know it themselves. Everyone hates them. And pretty much just shows them the same level of disdain that they would for the Ginger Witch. Just like her, they've essentially pulled a cheat mode on life. Blessed with a bottomless bank account and a disdain for financial fair play, the club is essentially playing by their own rules. Just like her, who secretly looks like a shriveled up old shrew. I mean, either she's a witch or Christ above, that is some serious makeup job. In many ways, City have performed miracles, owing it all to the magic they were once sprinkled with. Oh, and don't forget, just like the Ginger Witch, Man City are pretty good at rescuing things from the dead. Man United, Cersei Lannister. Before, they may have been seen as a cold, domineering, and ruthless being, but you know, Manchester United probably were. I mean, as soon as a player became dispensable at Old Trafford, off they went without a second's thought. Anyone remember Ruth Van Nistelrooy or Roy Keane, club captain of 11 years, getting tossed out in his arse after a fight with the boss? It seems like a bit of a Cersei Lannister move to me. Mind you, she'd almost certainly have him sentenced to death. Would have caused a bit of a stir in the Irish Examiner for sure. I'll tell you what, we might even have gotten a break from hearing about Conor McGregor's latest bowel movement. Anyway, the similarities run deep. A formerly powerful ruler, seeking to get back to the top, has enjoyed a pretty rough life, but you know, let's be honest, forced to marry a man she never loved, echoing Man United's reluctant acceptance of David Moyes. She's been forced to put up with an irritating little boy that plays by nobody's rules. Paul Pogba, anyone? And she's also been doled out her fair share of humiliation, like being marched bare naked through the streets being shouted at by a goddamn nun. Humiliating, sure, but is there anything close to Man United losing 4-0 to MK Dons? Newcastle, THEON Greyjoy. Let's be honest, Newcastle's fortunes have been on the downslide for the last decade, where once they were in a position to maybe lay claim to some titles or just grab a position of actual power. Nowadays they're a financially shackled vessel who've been mistreated by their owner and are now desperately clinging on to the only man that will give them the time of day. Oh yes, selling Kabay probably did hurt just as much as getting your penis chucked in a bin. Southampton, Arya Stark. Credit where it's due, it is 7 seasons and Southampton still have not been relegated. Or killed off. They are an established part of the main cast now, after coming into the Premier League looking unprepared and malnourished. Similarly, Arya is still going and, just like Southampton, happened to witness some pretty traumatizing events some 6 seasons ago, whereas the Saints spent about 3 weeks crying into the Weetabix over the sacking of Nigel Atkins. This one's month was spoiled when she witnessed her dad's head get put on a spike. Then again, I don't know why she was so surprised. Sean Bean ends up dead more often than Atkins finds himself down the local dole office. But yes, Arya and Southampton are the traumatized survivors who keep witnessing the likes of Liverpool, or House Lannister, trying to dismantle their goddamn squad. Tottenham, Jon Snow. Jon Snow and Tottenham are similar underdogs. Whereas back in 2012, Spurs were stuck in mid-table with Alan Hutton at the back. Jon Snow looked as though he'd spent 3 years stuck in the toilets of Burger King. Never mind the White Walkers. Lad, you look like you'd burst into a sweat thinking about a run. Watford, SAMWELL Tarly. Oh yeah, the fat lad who's with your one and the baby. Hope he gets plenty more screen time this season. I'm sorry, but this is supposed to be a medieval world, and he's still got a cholesterol that looks as though it's crying to be spat out his arse. The fella must have eaten his mother, because I'm pretty sure there's no KFC on that land. Anyway, I liken them to Watford purely because I did not expect either of these two to survive for very long. Also, the fact that they managed to sign Pereira from Juventus was every bit as shocking as this tin of fudge convincing a woman any any woman to give him a tug in the showers. Then again, Pereira does come with baggage, as does she with a god-awful accent and a kid who won't shut up. Come on HBO, sort it out. If I wanted to spend 3 seasons listening to some brat crying in the corner, I'd just poke holes in my box of condoms. Who am I kidding? Those things have been out of date since 2010. West Ham, OBERYN, Martell. Considering West Ham spent most of their summer pissing about in the transfer market, talking big without ever really doing all, I think that's going to end up being their undoing. What I'm saying is that this OBERYN fellas talked a lot of smack talk without actually backing it up, before obviously, you know, getting his head turned into a mashed potato. Similarly, David Sullivan and Gold can't stop talking about the goddamn Champions League. Lads, when you're paying Wiltshire 100k a week and still have Andy Carroll on the pay roster, Europe is a goddamn pipe dream. As is having a head that doesn't look like shepherd's pie. Wolves, Tyrion Lannister. For a while there, I really didn't know what Wolves were up to at all. They spent most of the last decade pissing about with relegation, Paul Lambert, and doing nothing really. Similarly, when we first met Tyrion, he just seemed to spend his time getting pissed and chilling with the hookers. Like this illustrious pint-sized underdog, Wolves for a long time lived in the shadow of their more illustrious neighbours. For Christ's sake, Aston Villa had a player nearly as good as Messi. But last season, Wolves slayed their brethren with a normal routine 2-0 win, not charging into the Villa Park toilets armed with a goddamn crossbow. Anyway, that's the end of the video, lads. I'm not really sure if it worked. Tell me if it did, tell me if it didn't. But yeah, if you have enjoyed, don't forget to give it a like, share, and subscribe. Instagram is there, Twitter is there, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.